What's up, SC Nation? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the top 10 ways you can lose a deal in a demo. And in case you don't know me, my name is Ramzi Marjaba. I'm a sales engineer out of Ottawa, Canada. And I use this YouTube channel to provide as much information to the SE community as I possibly can. A couple weeks back, I did a video about the top 10 ways to lose a deal in a discovery. And I decided to add another top 10 ways to lose a deal, but this time during a demo, because there are different things that we do in different situations that could lead to a lost deal. These are not the obvious forgot your laptop at home or forgot to bring a charger. This is more things that we tend to do and we don't notice. So hopefully you'll find this beneficial, and if you do find it beneficial, like, share, subscribe, and do all that beautiful jazzy stuff that YouTubers say these days. But let's get into the list. So number 1, not pausing or checking for questions. If you've watched any of my podcast interviews with Chris White, every minute or two he kind of pauses and asks, how does that resonate with you? What do you feel about that? What do you guys think? So that doesn't happen very often. A lot of people just go through 15 minutes of talking while showing the demo, especially on WebExes and on Zooms, where you don't see the customer on the other end, so you can't notice the body language. And that's where we need to use the pauses more, because if I'm in person, I can tell if someone's squirming or they have a question or they do one of this, and I can notice that. And if you're there with a salesperson, they can notice that as well. But over Zoom, if the cameras are off, it's very hard to do. So, which is why we need to pause every few minutes and ask for questions. And in case we don't get asked questions, we need to start asking questions. Because if they're not asking questions, doesn't mean that everything's all hunky-dory. It just means that either they're not paying attention, everything is hunky-dory, which, that rarely is the case because there's always questions to be asked, or they're just not interested at all in the demo, and you need to gauge yourself. So, not pausing for input from the customer. Number 2, deferring too many important questions. So, when we're doing this demo, we're hopefully having conversations with the customers at the same time. Again, it's not just this SE talking for 15 minutes straight. It's a back and forth, showing something, getting asked questions about it. But sometimes the customer is interested in something else. He's interested or she's interested in something that might come up down the line in the demo. And they ask a question about it. We defer that to a later date. Or like, hey, I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Can you hold that thought? And then we get asked another question. It's like, hey, I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Can you hold that thought? Or we get asked a question that we weren't intending on showing at all. And we say, well, this wasn't part of the scope of this demo, so it will not be covered. But we can talk about that offline. All are good ways to defer answering questions at the time. But if we defer too many of important questions, then what are you there to demo? You probably did a bad discovery, which means we don't understand what is the most important thing for the customer, because that's what we need to show first, especially if you have like a C-level executive in the room who's there for 10 minutes and you're showing what's important to everybody else except for him or her. So you need to actually move things around. Don't defer answering questions. You can show a little bit, or you can go into great depth depending on the situation, but deferring too many questions does show that you're sticking to your script, which is actually a bonus error that I added at the end of the list, but I guess I said it here today, right now, and I will repeat it again later, because nothing's wrong with repeating the same story, as you can tell by another video that I made. Number 3, not getting agreement at the start of the demo about what you're going to show. You show up, you already had the discovery done, your salesperson does this presentation for a few minutes, and then you take over and you jump straight into the demo. But you didn't get agreement from the customers that this is what we discussed last time, this is what's important to you, and this is what I'm going to show. You need to do that. You need to get agreement to make sure that you're going to end up showing the right things. You did the discovery properly, And it's not that you did a bad job in discovery when I say that. Sometimes you can't do a discovery with every single person or every single stakeholder affected by this project that you're working on. So sometimes you do a discovery with 3 people, and then a fourth person shows up who's more influential than those 3 people, and they're looking for other things. Where if you do an agreement ahead of time or before you start the demo, you get, we're going to talk about this point, and this point, and they can add, hey, I want to talk about that point. Well, then you can make a decision if you can actually show it during the demo. If you can't show it during the demo, you can schedule another demo for that. Whatever it is, then you can make that decision. Number 4, being distracted during your salesperson's presentation. So most demos that I've been through have like 5-10 minutes of spiel from the salesperson. This is our company, this is what we do. I don't particularly enjoy it. And I've had this problem myself where the salesperson would be talking and I'll be setting up something for my demo to make sure that the demo goes smoothly. And instead of listening to what the salesperson is talking about, I am clicking away on my laptop, and only to find out afterwards that what they wanted to see in the demo is not what I actually prepared. It was a discovery-less demo, let's just call it that. And he was kind of doing a bit of discovery, and I was too focused on preparing the demo that I thought they would want based on the information that I had. So instead of me being distracted, I should have participated in the discovery process or whatever conversation they're having. If it's still a presentation, you'd still need to be part of that so that you can hear what the customer's concerns are. They might ask questions that you can address during the demo. Don't be distracted while doing the pre-demo presentation by your salesperson. Number 5, being too cool if something breaks. Things break all the time. Nothing is perfect. The issue is when you're too cool about it, it implies that it's happened before. And it gets even worse when someone says, oh yeah, this happens all the time, don't worry, you just reboot it or restart the application and it'll work just fine. Every time something breaks, it reflects badly on the company. It reflects badly on the person doing the demo, because you're a representative of that company. You didn't build the product, but you're still showing it and you're saying this is the best product for your problem that you're having, except it crashes every once in a while. Don't belabor the point, but also don't make it look like, it's not important, because it might be important to your customer. As long as you don't say it happens all the time. Number 6, the flip side of that is you get too frustrated when things break. And again, things break. And we can't panic if it breaks. We are not cool. There's always a middle ground. We have to be part of that middle ground. We have to make sure that they understand it doesn't happen often, because if it does happen often, then why are you selling that product? Try to sell another product where it doesn't crash often. And on the other hand, if it crashed once during the demo, there is no reason to panic. Every time I do a demo in front of a customer, they tend to comment about how things go horribly wrong during demos, because most of the customers I've had to do a demo to somebody, whether it's internal or external. And it seems that they have the same experience that we have, where things sometimes break in the middle of a demo. So they comment about that as well. So just understand that there's no reason to panic. You're gonna get it fixed. You'll get it working again. And if it doesn't get working again, then either you should have prepared better beforehand, and if you have prepared better, then there's not much you could have done during the demo because it just decided to crash. It's happened to me with my previous company where I work with hardware. I got a piece of hardware, I plugged in a Ethernet card which generates traffic for testing networking equipment, and everything worked fine. I took that entire hunk of metal to the customer site and nothing came up. And I was there with my salesperson, with a couple of product managers, with like 3 or 4 from the customers. And I looked at my salesperson and I said, distract the customer. And I tried to debug it for 10 minutes straight and it would not come up. Unplugged it, brought it back to my office, and it came back up. Nothing I could have done. And it's not something I'm going to beat myself over. The product manager was there, so it was easy for me to say that, hey man, there's nothing I could have done about that. What could you have done to make it not crash in front of the customer? So these are things that happen, and we learn from it and we move on. Number 7, addressing the wrong people during the meeting. So there are people who are decision makers, and there are people who are there to influence the decisions, and there are people who are there to just fill up a seat. Maybe to make it look more intimidating, whatever it is. They're just there, they don't actually have an effect on the decision that's going to happen. And during the meeting, we need to address everybody, obviously. We can't ignore anybody just because we think that they might not be influential. They might end up being influential. But we need to focus more on the people that we know are decision makers. And this is the information that we need to get from our champions, or from doing the discovery call, or from when we ask a question, we watch who everybody turns to answer that question. You will notice that during a meeting where not everybody is allowed to answer a question. They just defer to the technical lead or the business lead to answer the question. So if you don't know who the influencers are, who the decision makers are, ask questions and see who answers those questions, and see who overrides some of the questions that are being answered. Number 8, not knowing the crowd. I am very guilty of making jokes that do not land. And this is good because I'm talking to the camera never laughs, so I don't feel awkward about making stupid jokes. But when you're in front of a customer, if I make a joke or two that don't land, I kind of tone it down on the jokes. Maybe spread them out a little bit. Maybe try to build rapport in a different way so that when I have a joke, that I can actually build a better relationship, because humor, laughter builds relationships more than anything else in a short period of time. You can always build relationships over long periods of time by caring about the people, asking about their families, understanding about their family situation. So these are things that you can do in the long term, but in a short meeting, you have to know your audience. You have to know what jokes to land. You have what jokes to say that they would land. What else did I have here? Or if you're too serious for a meeting with a customer who likes to joke. I had customers who their whole goal in life was to give vendors a hard time. And I went there, I visited them, and they just gave me such a hard time. And towards the end of the first half of the day, I started giving them a hard time back. And turns out that's what they wanted. They enjoyed the back and forth. They enjoyed giving me a hard time. They enjoyed it more when I gave them a hard time. Keep in mind that not every SE will be able to work with every customer. We have to work with every customer, but we excel with certain customers over others, and that's okay as well. So number 9, pushing down the wrong track. As in, if in the middle of a demo you find that no one's interested in whatever you're saying, you can't just keep pushing down that same track. We had a presentation once with a customer where we are selling a product for hundreds of thousands of dollars that does network testing. And within the first 5 minutes, and that was a PM doing the presentation. Within the first 5 minutes, we found out that this guy is just looking for a handheld device that he can buy for like a couple $100 that will just test, that will send light through a fiber. So it's a very simple test. It's not that complicated, for not even a fraction of the price. We do, and it's not what we do. It's not our core business. We test networks. He wanted to test a fiber, that specific customer. And instead of stopping and stepping back, maybe find another solution, maybe saying we can't help you and walking out and saving ourselves 45 minutes of time, the PM pushed through. He just went through slide after slide after slide after slide of equipment that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars versus just the guy's not going to buy. That's not what he's interested in. We could have used that time to actually dig in and find more information about other people within the company that might need to test it, might need the products that we're selling. But being brand new to the company, I didn't know how to do that. My salesperson didn't know how to do that either. So we ended up just spending an hour of slide after slide after slide. And that was during my spray and pray phase. So there's that. Number 10, answering questions I think they're asking, not the actual questions they're asking. And that happens a lot, where you misunderstand a question and you just answer differently and assume that that was the question that the customer was asking. And sometimes customers are brave enough to say that wasn't the question I was asking, this is what I was asking. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes they just they let it go. Especially if it happens often. If it's happened 2 or 3 times during the meeting, they just shut down and stop asking questions. You'll notice that they open up their laptop and start working, or just take their phone and start answering emails. These are things that we need to pay attention to as we're working with customers. Always clarify the question that they're asking. Make sure that I personally always like to rephrase what they're asking. Don't use the same words they just asked. Rephrase it in your own words to see if that is what they're asking. Bonus point number 11, I guess like this. Not being able to pivot during a demo. You showed up, you started doing the demo, they start asking you questions that are valid but not prepared for as part of the demo because that wasn't discussed, which comes back to the previous points where you need to make sure that you get agreement about what you're going to show during the demo. But even then, things might creep up. Specific features within specific features, at least in my business, might creep up and they might be asked about. And if I'm sticking to my script, if I'm not moving away from my script, that tends to piss off customers quite a bit, because you're answering, again, whatever you wanted to answer, not what they're interested in. Keep in mind that the demo is about the customer, what they want to see, not what you want to show them. The way you show them is up to you. What they want to see to solve their problems is up to them. And that's the information that you need to gather during the discovery call. And if you can't do that during the discovery call, you're going to have to adapt on the fly. Which is why SEs also need to be very technical. But I am digressing down a rabbit hole that I'm going to stop right now. So that's it for me, guys. Check out We the SEs, the forums. I created a live resume category for those who lost their jobs during the corona pandemic, to post 5-minute videos on their about themselves, so that hopefully that can speed up the process. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of resumes going through, but if you can get your personality across during a video, that might help as well. So check that out, and I'll leave it there. Thanks, guys. Peace.